Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, now joining my colleague, Owen Schroyer, here at the War Room. First of all, a moment of silence for David Cassidy, late of the Partridge Family, passing away here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at age 67. Oh, and all eyes are now on Alabama as the stakes grow higher and higher for that special election to fill the seat of Senator Jeff Sessions, who, of course, resigned in order to become Attorney General. The stakes are extraordinarily high, and although Ted Cruz and Senator Mike Lee, the Republican National Senatorial Committee, have headed for the tall grass, President Donald Trump today endorsed the embattled Republican Roy Moore, who appears to be locked in a skin-tight race with former prosecutor Doug Jones, the Democrat. The president justified his endorsement of Moore based on the fact that he doubts Moore's accusers and on the fact that Moore has run statewide in 8 individual races and never have these charges been raised against him. My own prediction is that Moore will squeeze out this race, but for pressure on the president from Steve Bannon and others, he too would be sitting out this race, which I think would have been a mistake. Again, all eyes on Alabama. Meanwhile, also in the news today, former cabinet member Kathleen Sebelius comes forward and says that the Clintons received, or I should say, meted out extraordinarily negative treatment to those women who came forward during the Clinton presidency with tales of being sexually harassed or attacked by Bill Clinton. As we know, it's a brand new day, and just this week, we saw extraordinary news stories, first by Aaron Klein of Breitbart News, and then by Ed Klein, the extraordinary reporter and author, detailing 5 more women who've come forward to say that they were sexually harassed by Bill Clinton. You see, the important thing to recognize is it's not just Bill Clinton's boorish and violent behavior towards women, not infidelities or indiscretions, as the mainstream media tried to call them during the presidential campaign, but something far more disgusting: violence against women, sexual assault, rape, and in the case of Bill Clinton, his signature move, biting through the upper lip of his sexual assault victims, as he did in the case of Juanita Broaddrick, and at least 2 other women identified by, at the time, NBC and the Washington Post. Will the Clintons get their just desserts? Well, that remains to be seen, with the New Yorker and a number of other major media outlets turning on the Clintons. One way you can crusade for justice to the Clintons is by going to the Infowars.com store and picking up your iconic Clinton rape t-shirt. Now, this t-shirt has a history because while I designed it, Alex Jones is the one who made it a national phenomena when, during the presidential campaign, he offered $1,000 to anyone who could get on television wearing this shirt, and $5,000 to anyone who got on television, regionally or nationally, with the shirt, wearing the shirt, and saying, Bill Clinton is a rapist. Folks, Alex Jones paid out more than $250,000 to patriots who were committed to breaking through the mainstream media blackout of Bill Clinton's real history as a sexual predator. This is how we were able to destroy the mainstream media myth that Bill Clinton was only guilty of indiscretions or infidelities. So, folks, you can support our broadcast here and our expansion at Infowars.com. You can also support the expansion to 10 hours of broadcasting by going to the Infowars store now, ordering more than one of 60 great First Amendment-oriented T-shirts, or taking advantage of our terrific specials now posted on the screen. 50% off Super Male Vitality, 50% off of Living Defense, and my all-time favorite, 50% off of Brain Force Plus, which is candidly a supplement without which this very broadcast would not be possible. There it is, Brain Force Plus, an extraordinary savings now, $19.95. This is among the very best products. I would not be without it, and I urge you now to go to the site and help us out, help yourself, and help the cause of media and press freedom. Indeed, our very First Amendment. Owen, who have we got on the call board? If we have time for a few calls, now would be a time.
We certainly do. Let's go out to, well, let's start with Dan in Nova Scotia, guys. Go ahead. Dan, you're on the air with Roger Stone.
Hey, Owen, how are you?
Good.
Good. Oh, yeah, I got a question for Roger, but I just got a little remark about the video you guys made where what'd you say? What do I do if one of them Antifa dudes comes up to me? And you're like, that's easy.
the anti-communist, anti-fascist InfoWars T-shirt.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that cracked me up when you're like, put a pacifier in his mouth. I couldn't believe it. Yes, Roger, I'm sorry to disrespect.
Not at all.
I think that you're awesome. Man, like 15 years ago, I started watching Alex Jones, and I just have a question for you. I mean, you could probably take hours to tell a person, but just maybe a summary. What was it like to work with Richard Nixon, President Richard Nixon?
Well, it was a great privilege to work for President Nixon. He was a truly great man. He did many great things, ending the war in Vietnam, reaching a strategic arms limitation agreement with the Soviets, opening the door to China, desegregating the public schools without violence or bloodshed, launching the war on cancer, unilaterally saving Israel from destruction in the 1973 Yom Kippur War over the objections of Henry Kissinger and his own national security staff. He was an immensely private man, an introvert in an extrovert's business. He was very thoughtful. He, for example, would call me on my birthday every year from the time that I visited him in San Clemente in 1977 to the time of his death. He knew the names of my children, my wife's name. They even knew how many dogs I had. He had an extraordinary memory for names and faces. I remember traveling through National Airport, now Reagan National Airport, in Washington, D.C. We were late to catch a flight, but a man stopped him and asked for an autograph and called him Dick. He shook hands. He was very warm. And as we walked away, I said, "Who was that guy?" And he said, "Oh, that's Ralph something or other. He's from Iowa. I think he was a county chairman." I said, "When's the last time you saw him?" He said, "I think it was 1956 when I was running for re-election as vice president." That's how encyclopedic his knowledge was. So and on another occasion, I recall going through a Washington hotel lobby when a large woman came up and asked him for an autograph, and he was in a hurry, but he stopped and he graciously asked her where she was from and a little bit about her, signed her autograph, and she went away happy as a clam. And he said, never turn down a request for an autograph. If you do, they think you're a real a-hole. That was Richard Nixon, a great man. He did many great things. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention his failures. The war on drugs, probably his greatest failure, closing the gold window, taking us off the gold standard, yet another. Richard Nixon, a great man. Welcome back. You're at the War Room with Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer. One of my favorite reporters, Myra Adams, writing for BizPac Review, points out that President Donald Trump, in his official Thanksgiving message, thanked God 5 individual times. Contrast that with the official message by President Barack Obama in 2016, which did not mention God even once. That's a sea change, Owen, and one that I'm most proud of. And now, let's go back to the calls for either Owen or myself. We'll be happy to take your call on any subject here at the War Room. Owen, pick away.
Let's go to Danny calling in from Indiana. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey, what's up, man?
Doing good.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Happy Thanksgiving, Danny. What's on your mind?
Yeah, right back at you, brother. Dude, let me just say right off the bat, I'm a fan. Super fan. But, okay, let's talk about, all right, Mike Pence. Mike Pence making girls who get an abortion in Indiana have to pay for a funeral. That's messed up. That's just messed up.
Well, I think that is a far-fetched policy that Pence kind of put out there as a troll statement. But
No,
that's
it's
one
the thing,
issue
though.
that Pence is extreme on, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
All right. Can we, well, dude, I mean, come on. But
I'm not saying I agree with the policy proposal. I'm saying if you look at Pence and you choose that issue as an issue that you have a problem with him on,
I agree. And also, though, like, yeah, like people who are scared of Trump, I'm more scared of Pence. But anyway, just like, I know it's a little dated.
I don't know what you're scared
but, like, Snoop Dogg and, like, Eminem, like, doing their whole thing against the president, I think that's hilarious because, like, they enjoy the pimp game. You know, like, you don't see them, like, coming out against Harvey Weinstein or, like, any of that garbage. But they're, like, super cool with, like, oh, yeah, screw the president. You know, but, like, oh, the pimp game's still cool. You know, because they live in that Hollywood world to where that's still cool. Like, the pimp game is awesome. But, no, yeah, like, if you're, you know, Trump.
Well, these
like,
are desperate quote unquote artists that have trouble selling albums, so they need to do something to drum up some attention. I mean, Roger, have you ever seen anything like this, Roger, where you'll have an entire industry with different artists attacking the president just like nonstop in order to sell albums?
Well, first of all, thank you for your call. I must say one thing, it kind of tickles me. Several months ago, when it was revealed that the vice president had a policy of never dining alone with a woman other than his wife and never being alone with a woman other than his wife, he was widely mocked. How dumb does that look now? I'd say that looks pretty smart. When Texas Representative Joe Barton is caught sending text photos of his naked penis, believe me, folks, this is a photo you don't want to see. Even those who produced it have blocked out parts of it. Not exactly a turn on for anybody, woman or man. You have to wonder where we are headed and who will be next in the barrel. I have predicted that State Senator Tony Montoya of California will be in the forefront of a massive California Democratic sex scandal shortly. And where will this end, and who else will it take down? Charlie Rose, for example, Glenn Thrush of the New York Times. Where will this go? I'd say Mike Pence looks pretty smart right now. Oh, and let's go back to the call board. Who's next?
Larry calling in from Mississippi. Go ahead, Larry.
Hey, Mr. Stone, and y'all still there?
Go ahead.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Look, I don't know. I saw the other day where the Marines have come in on President Trump's side to stop any kind of coup or whatever that the people at the Pentagon or what. Is that the truth? I mean, did that actually happen?
Roger, have you heard any stories about a military stepping in to stop some sort of coup against President Trump?
I have not, but as you know, Owen, we have actively predicted a coup d'etat here at InfoWars, but not of the military variety. I believe the coup d'etat that the president faces is a phony charge, trumped up charges, if you will, brought by Robert Mueller in a pretext for a quick railroaded impeachment of the president. Probably not possible. Probably not possible under the currently constituted House of Representatives, but very, very possible if the Democrats should capture the House in 2018. Failing that, I believe we could have a coup under the pretext of the 25th Amendment. That's an amendment to the Constitution that says if a majority of the cabinet and the vice president believe that the president is no longer mentally capable of discharging his duties, he shall be removed. The president can then appeal that decision again to the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, there are some in Washington who believe that if Vice President Pence made a deal with House Speaker Ryan for the vice presidency, that the president would not be sustained in the House. Is this all far-fetched? Is it a conspiracy theory? Is it outside the realm of possibility? Don't bet on it. You heard about it here first on Infowars.com. Let's see how this develops. Larry, thank you very much for your call. Owen?
All right, John, squeeze it in. You got 60 seconds. John in Houston.
Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to see what you guys wanted to say about perhaps the next thing going on in the Middle East. We heard about Trump giving some support to this purge, and there was a lot of good aspects to the purge in Saudi Arabia. A lot of the old corrupt people, some of the worst ones going down, and people were very happy about that. But then at the same time, some unexpected aspects to the purge. They're trying to spread some instability, it appears, into Lebanon, which was pretty stable. So I don't think that Rex Tillerson came out against that, saying that he does not want Saudi Arabia to do that. And so what do you guys think about the future? I heard that, I don't know if this is true, that Saudi Arabia offered billions of dollars to Israel to engage against Lebanon, and that there's some kind of war coming in the future. Do you guys think there's a war coming?
Roger?
I generally think the purge is positive. The old line Bush connections have been purged. You have a harder line against Iran under the new leadership, which matches our own position. As for a future war, I can confirm what you say about the outreach to the Israelis. More than that, I do not know.
We'll be right back with
right
more
back
of the
on
War
the
Room.
War Room. Welcome back. You're at the right place. Yes, it's the War Room with Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer. And we're taking your calls today because we think the dialogue with the InfoWarriors is a very important aspect of what we do here at InfoWars. First of all, let me mention again, this extraordinary programming wouldn't be possible. This 10 hours every day of nonstop broadcasting, this important expansion is available only because of your loyal support for InfoWars via the InfoWars store. We have some extraordinary specials right now where you can not only pick up products that are extraordinarily well tested and carefully verified, in many cases with thousands of satisfied testimonials, but you can also help finance the extraordinary expansion here because we are the tip of the spear. We are the leading broadcast facility for those on the so-called alt-right. This is the only place that is multi-dimensional. You can watch us on video, you can hear us on radio, you can read on our website. So while there are many great conservative sites, the Daily Caller, Breitbart News, and so on, we are the tip of the spear, and we need your support to continue this extraordinary expansion that Alex Jones has mapped out. As Owen said earlier on the program, we would not be here today without your loyal support. So please visit the Infowars.com store and look at the extraordinary specials available there today. Owen, let's go back to the call board. I want to get in as many calls as we possibly can. And I know we get kind of stacked up, but we appreciate your calls and we're happy to respond. You have questions for either Owen or myself. We're happy to engage.
All right,
Owen?
let's go to Eric in Florida. Eric, you're on the air with Roger Stone.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Owen, Roger. Guys put on a great show. Very entertaining and very resourceful. I pick up a lot of information and put it in my memory bank. Anyways, this one's probably more geared towards Roger there. I'll just throw it out and you guys can take it from there. Back, it was probably the first campaign, or not campaign, first presidency of Clinton. I was a young man. I believe I was out of my teens, but under 21. And ignorance of law here in the United States is no excuse. So what did Bill Clinton do? And does Michael Fay in Singapore, spitting on the sidewalks in Singapore, vandalizing the property, all that kind of stuff. I was very angered by it personally. I believe there's a lot of people out there who feel like me. You know, the hell with those un-American football players. That's what I call them. That's not American. But anyways, Bill Clinton, I believe, made a personal trip all the way out there and reduced the sentence of flogging there in Singapore, which is part of China, but kind of like on the skirts. So, I mean, I took it really, really personal. Do you remember that, Roger? F-A-Y, and I believe it had an E, silent E at the end. And maybe your crew there can look it up. Bill Clinton, Michael Fay. If so, I mean,
Yeah.
look, Donald Trump did this while he happened to be in the area. You know? But I believe this was a trip that he did personally. I don't know if he's trying to do it to embolden himself, if that's the right terminology. And I'll leave it at that. I'll just listen for your answer.
All right. Well, I appreciate your call. I don't remember the incident specifically with Mr. Fay. If you want to read the definitive Oppo dump on the Clintons, you can go to the Infowars.com store now and get the Clintons' War on Women. I produced this book for the 2016 campaign, and it's all there. Whether it is the Clintons going into the Arkansas prison system, extracting blood from the prisoners and selling it abroad without screening it for hepatitis or HIV, or whether it is the extraordinary multiple assaults on women by Bill Clinton and the incredible cover-up that was directed by Hillary Clinton, because she was the one who hired the heavy-handed private detectives and the nasty lawyers to threaten and bully and intimidate Bill Clinton's victims into silence. This book has a terrific foreword by Kathleen Willey, the brave woman who was assaulted by Bill Clinton in the Oval Office the very same day her husband committed suicide, and then harassed by a private detective named Jack Palladino. Palladino's name was in the news only last week. Why? Because Harvey Weinstein hired Palladino to harass and threaten and bully his victims into silence. So we find that Clinton is more like Weinstein, or vice versa, than we thought. Again, if you want to not only support the InfoWars, but learn the shocking details of Bill and Hillary Clinton, including the fact that Bill Clinton is not Chelsea's father. Chelsea's real father is Webster Hubbell, or the incredible story of Danny Williams, the abandoned African-American son of Bill Clinton, banished by Hillary. You can go to the Infowars.com store now and get the Clintons' War on Women. Thank you so much for your call. Owen, who's next?
We've got Amari in Texas. Go ahead, Amari.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Oh yeah. So sorry. First of all, I just want to say thank y'all so much, and I've been a listener since September, and I just love what all y'all do. The question I have the question I have is that last night I've been reading that the Iranian government has declared that ISIS has officially been defeated, and I just want to know either one of your responses that since the ISIS is a product of Hillary Clinton and the globalist state, and the Iranian is also a corrupted globalist state. Do you believe in what they say in that ISIS is a defeated or some sense?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. If ISIS has been defeated, they certainly haven't stopped their Twitter feed. It's interesting to me that ISIS is still active on Twitter while I am banned for life. It is probably not realistic for the Iranian state to just declare that they are defeated. ISIS is, of course, the manifestation of the Bush-era policies, which gave rise to ISIS. And then, of course, they were armed by Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State during the Obama administration. Again, I'd like to see them banned on Twitter. Owen, what are your thoughts?
Well, it is amazing. I think that finally we have a president and administration that has a goal as to ending ISIS and not a president that's kind of under the table actually trying to build them up. I think that that's why we're actually seeing ISIS being crippled right now as far as what they're doing in the Middle East. But, Roger, it's interesting, again, as you're noting how you've been banned from Twitter, and anyone that even wants to report with you, associate with you, they get banned from Twitter. There was I don't even know, some journalist, some no-name journalist who somehow gets verified on Twitter, Roger. She tweets out, "I hate white people." Her name is Kate Morgan. She tweets out, "I hate white people." Just flat out, "I hate white people." She's got over 40,000 followers, and she is okay. She's okay to continue tweeting on. But Roger Stone, that is just reporting truth, you're banned, Roger. They got to shut you down.
No, only this morning, Owen, someone tweeted, "Roger Stone needs a bullet in his head by Christmas." Welcome back. You're at the War Room with your hosts, Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer. And we're trying to jam in as many of your phone calls as we possibly can before we're all released for a joyous Thanksgiving holiday. Owen, let's go to the call board and see who we have.
It looks like Dave in Wisconsin is up next. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, hi. I can't believe I finally got on. Nice talking to you.
Thanks for calling, Dave. Okay? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry? Okay, basically, I wanted to bring up two things. One thing, I recently saw, the video by Paul Watson about the soy boys, and then I did some research. I found an article in Men's Health talking about it, and it's kind of scary what it does. I mean, it's in everything. It's almost impossible to avoid, and I would just say, make a little plug for your show. Definitely take something like Male Vitality. Keep your energy up, and don't allow yourself to be feminized by this, what is essentially poison for men.
Yeah, Anthroplex too. It's amazing, Absolutely. Roger, to think about this, because you've got a situation where you could have children while they're in utero, their moms are eating nothing but soy and not having the right diet, and then you have the child is born, and then they're, instead of getting breast milk that has the essential fatty acids that you need to develop your brain to develop and everything to develop, they're getting the supplemental, fake soy milk instead. And then they have their parents saying, "Oh, well, we have to be soy." So they feed them soy their whole lives. It's no wonder that we're seeing these emasculated, impotent, low testosterone men. And it's amazing the video Paul Joseph Watson did. I mean, I don't know, Roger, have you ever seen a generation of such wusses and wimps?
Well, Owen, I've looked into this. Evidently, the ingestion of large amounts of soy does increase estrogen levels in males. My own grandson told me that he had an early case of gynecomastia, which abated after he dropped the soy. I think it's a very real thing. And great work by Paul Joseph Watson. It could also explain why we seem to have an entire generation of wimps out there. So as bad as they tell you whole milk is, I think I will return to it. Thank you very much for your call. Let's take another one.
Actually, you know what? I think Dave had another question for you, Roger. Let's give Dave one more swing here. Go ahead, Dave.
Appreciate that. Okay, yeah. It's just really quick. It's about Allen Ginsberg. I call him Allen Nembla Ginsberg, and he's like the original Marxist. He's like the original guy that got college kids into Marxism from Greenwich Village, beatnik poet from the 50s. I've never really heard it mentioned on the show. I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, I remember reading his epic poem, which is called Howl, back in the 60s.
Pretty crazy. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was a major, of course, anti-Vietnam War figure, kind of the first hippie, if you will, and even in those days, openly homosexual. I don't think we hear much about him today because he has fallen into the dustbin of history. Again, we're in a new anti-globalist, pro-American phase, and our country, I think, is going to be saved by our current president. Those who were planning on a race between Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, in which the fix was in other words, heads I win, tails you lose, those days are behind us. We have a president who on Thanksgiving thanks God 5 times, unlike his predecessor, who lauds the military, our law enforcement, our first responders. How incredibly refreshing, how incredibly American. Owen, what's your take?
Well, I'll just add, Barack Obama was such a disgraceful hack of a president. You need look no further than the reaction that President Trump got when he landed in China in comparison to the arrival party or lack thereof the last time Barack Obama traveled to China, where he had to get off the butt of the plane, and there was no introductive ceremony from the Chinese. There was no red carpet. There was nothing for Barack Obama from the Chinese for his arrival, the bum. But President Trump gets a huge ceremony, red carpet, and is actually getting things done in foreign relations. Thank you so much for the call, Dave. We've got Fernando calling in from Connecticut. You're on air with Roger Stone. Go ahead, Fernando.
Hi, gentlemen. Great fan of the show. There was an incident way back when the Pentagon got caught with the pornography. It was like 5,000 of them. And whatever happened to that incident?
When?
Oh, this was a long time ago. It was on the news. The Pentagon, people at the Pentagon, like 5,000 of them were.
I'm not familiar with this story. I'm not doubting you. Our crew's looking up. Roger, what do you know about this?
This is news to me. A long time ago, the Pentagon.
Hey, print that story for me, guys. Sorry, Roger. Just print that story for me, guys. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with this particular incident. It was some time ago that the Pentagon outlawed the sale of pornographic magazines at the PXs across the country. Beyond that, I'm not familiar with with the specifics of the case that the caller mentions. I do want to ask, where exactly in Connecticut are you, sir?
You know what? We've lost Fernando. Sorry about that, Roger.
All right. That's all right. Let's go to our next call. We've got a few more minutes here before the Thanksgiving break. One more.
We've got Dom in California. Go ahead, Dom.
Hi. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dom.
Absolutely. This is a question for Roger Stone, actually. First, I want to say I'm a huge fan of both the War Room and yourself. I purchased and read the Clinton's War on Women, the Bush crime family, and I also purchased The Making of an American President for my father this past Christmas. Anyway, my question is this. I've been looking all over, and I can't seem to find any information on your current lawsuit against Twitter or if that's still going. And I have a second question if you have time, but if you could answer that one first.
Sure. We are preparing a lawsuit, which, because of the terms of the service contract with Twitter, will have to be filed in the Northern District of California. At this point, the lawsuit is both more complex and broader than perhaps we had initially anticipated. I expect to challenge Twitter on First Amendment grounds, on antitrust grounds, and also because they're in violation of their service contract. We will be shortly announcing who the lawyers are that will carry this case. But if you want to support this litigation, which will be extraordinarily expensive, you can go to stonedefensefund.com. That's stonedefensefund.com. We're going to be instituting a specific and separate legal fund, but in the meantime, we don't have the deep pockets that Twitter has. They're going to bury us in paper with their own white shoe lawyers. But this is an important case. I spoke to my friend Milo Yiannopoulos the other day. He will be joining the lawsuit amicus, or as a co-plaintiff, among other major conservatives who've been silenced on Twitter. I expect this to be a hard-fought and highly covered landmark case over the First Amendment, and an obvious effort by Twitter to silence conservative voices. Now, under Twitter's rules, when you set up a Twitter feed that is meant to circumvent a ban, they will take those down too. But they have also suspended Stone Cold Truth and Stone Zone Tweets, both of whom have been in existence since 2015, clearly not set up to circumvent their ban. There is a lonely patriot out there who has posted a new feed called Not Roger Stone. That's Not Roger Stone on Twitter. I urge you right now to follow Not Roger Stone, because this fellow or woman, whoever it is, does a pretty good job of covering my exploits and what I'm doing here at InfoWars, as well as on the Stone Cold Truth and at the Stone Zone. So follow Not Roger Stone for the time being. I want to reiterate once again, Not Roger Stone is indeed not Roger Stone. But you can get the truth about what I'm up to by following this Twitter feed. Do it now. We're going to be keeping track. Many thanks. And Owen, as the clock runs down, I want to wish you and everyone on the InfoWars crew a happy, joyous, and most heartfelt Thanksgiving. Thank God for President Donald J. Trump and the United States.